Talk about courtroom drama, massive lawsuits, and some of the biggest names in Hollywood fighting tooth and nail for reputation, power, and millions of dollars. In one corner, you've got Blake Lively, the actress who once carried an America's sweetheart persona. In the other corner, Justin Baldoni, director, actor, and the man who's not only hitting back but is poised to deliver a knockout punch that could devastate Blake's entire career and bank account. This isn't just any celebrity spat. This is a scorched earth legal battle that's got Ryan Reynolds, Hollywood elites, and half the internet tangled up in a swirl of betrayal, secrets, and receipts. By the end of this saga, we'll find out why Blake Lively might be on the brink of losing everything: her credibility, her career, and yes, maybe even every last dollar in her bank account. Let's start with a bang. A 90-minute hearing that managed to send shockwaves through Hollywood. Blake Lively probably waltzed into that courtroom thinking her A-list status and million-dollar legal team would tip the scales in her favor. But it only took an hour and a half, just 90 minutes, for the judge to refuse every single motion her lawyers tried to push. Motion to silence Justin? Denied. Motion to hold back evidence? Denied. Motion to protect certain communications from discovery? Denied. Think about that for a second. Not even a single procedural bone was thrown her way. While big celebrities often get an upper hand from starstruck onlookers, the court this time wasn't buying it. The media-savvy, carefully manufactured image that Blake brought to this legal confrontation seemed to fall apart the moment real evidence started surfacing. It was as if the judge held a giant neon sign reading, "No special treatment today." If Blake's team expected the red carpet treatment, they sure didn't get it, and it was all downhill from there. Word around the courtroom was that her attorneys looked shell-shocked. A-listers tend to carry a certain aura of invincibility, but that aura fizzled out the second they faced the judge's no-nonsense approach. People in attendance reported a vibe that felt more like a slaughter than a standard hearing. And guess who was leading that charge? Justin Baldoni, or rather, his pit bull of a lawyer, Brian Friedman. Friedman dissected Blake's legal arguments so thoroughly, it was as if he'd come armed with a scalpel, one he wielded with the cold precision of a surgeon removing a tumor. How did it come to this brutal standoff? Well, according to the unfolding drama, Blake Lively launched a $250 million lawsuit accusing Justin Baldoni of harassment. She apparently expected him to back down under the combined weight of her Hollywood clout, her star-studded circle of friends, and her husband Ryan Reynolds' influence. Lively probably thought Justin would roll over, maybe pay up, and then shuffle away with his tail between his legs. But if that was the plan, she underestimated the fight in Baldoni. Instead of cowering, Justin fired back with a countersuit for $400 million, nearly double her initial demand. Overnight, Blake went from playing offense to playing a desperate, panicked defense. You can practically imagine the moment her legal team realized, oh no, he's not settling. And that's the crucial pivot. When a countersuit of that size hits, everything changes. It's not just about reputational damage or hush money anymore. It's about who will walk away financially destroyed. A $400 million countersuit is enough to bankrupt not just Blake Lively, but also potentially drag Ryan Reynolds into the abyss if the courts hold him accountable for any involvement. There's something intensely satisfying about seeing a David and Goliath situation, though in this case, it's more like Goliath versus Goliath. Both are huge Hollywood names, but Lively arguably started this war, and now Justin is making sure she regrets ever crossing him. Once the dust settles, only one side can emerge unscathed, and odds are increasingly favoring Baldoni, especially after that disastrous 90-minute hearing. If you've been following along, you've probably picked up on the contradictory nature of Blake Lively's claims. On one hand, she's accusing Justin Baldoni of making her uncomfortable on set, harassing her, or fostering a toxic environment. On the other hand, there's a mountain of messages, emails, and behind-the-scenes footage that paint a very different picture. One where she's praising Justin, calling him a ballbuster in a playful context, even acknowledging how rewarding it was to collaborate with him. These contrasting narratives form the backbone of Justin's countersuit, which runs over 170 pages deep. You've got text message after text message showing a friendly banter and mutual respect during production. You've got emails where she explicitly thanks him for his guidance and support, none of which aligns with her current stance of, "I was deeply uncomfortable and felt harassed." The contradiction is so stark that many are starting to wonder if this entire fiasco was some sort of strategy by Blake and Ryan to gain leverage, maybe to wrest creative control over a project, or to shape a narrative that benefits them publicly. Whatever the motive, the receipts speak louder than the complaints. In the court of public opinion, authenticity is everything. If you tell the world you were traumatized, but there's documentary evidence showing you smiling, laughing, or downright praising the person you claim traumatized you, people start to question your sincerity. The internet is relentless when it comes to sniffing out inconsistencies, and in this situation, there appear to be more holes than a block of Swiss cheese in Blake's storyline. Then there's Ryan Reynolds, the protective husband you might expect to stand firmly by Blake's side, but the way he's chosen to do it is raising eyebrows. Instead of quietly supporting her legal strategy, Ryan hopped onto SNL, cracked jokes about the lawsuit, and basically treated the situation as comedic fodder. That performance didn't land well at all. The internet turned its pitchforks on him, questioning how any any husband whose wife claims harassment could be so cavalier. Social media erupted with comments like, "Read the room," and "could have done without Ryan's cameo." When your wife claims she's a victim, the last thing you do is publicly make light of it. People called it tone-deaf, insensitive, and manipulative. Where's the indignation, the anger, the outcry? By joking about it, Ryan inadvertently signaled that maybe he doesn't take the allegations seriously, so why should anyone else? That contradiction has left the couple looking disingenuous, fueling theories that the original lawsuit was more of a PR move or a chess piece for something bigger. To make matters worse, Friedman, Justin Baldoni's attorney, publicly pointed out how bizarre it is for a husband to treat sexual harassment claims like a punchline. That statement alone made Ryan look callous, almost complicit in a grand-scale manipulation. And if you believe rumors that Ryan helped orchestrate or at least spin this story in the media, then that comedic cameo starts to look more like a misguided attempt at controlling public perception, one that backfired spectacularly. Let's circle back to the courtroom drama for a second, because one of the most jaw-dropping developments was the judge's approach. Typically, high-powered Hollywood attorneys come prepared with a slew of strategies: motions to limit what can be discussed, motions to delay depositions, protective orders to keep certain evidence under wraps, especially in harassment cases that might hinge on sensitive personal content. But in this hearing, the judge effectively said nope to every single motion Blake's team filed. The attempt to get a gag order on Friedman was particularly brazen. Blake Lively's team wanted to muzzle Justin Baldoni and his lawyer from discussing the case publicly, presumably because they feared the release of more evidence that contradicts Blake's story. But not only did the judge deny it, they threatened to move up the trial date if Blake continued waging a media war. Translation: if you keep dragging this into the press, I'll make sure you face the music sooner rather than later. That's a nightmare scenario for someone who might be relying on carefully curated public narratives. It's pretty telling that the judge didn't appear to trust the motivations behind Lively's motions. Judges often see through stunts aimed at spinning the media or controlling the narrative, so if they sense you're using the court system as a PR weapon, they're not likely to be sympathetic. Right now, Blake's entire legal strategy has been torpedoed, and the final trial isn't even underway yet. Hollywood watchers, social media users, and even fans of both celebrities have been tuning in, dissecting every snippet of leaked information. And here's the kicker: instead of championing Blake as a brave victim coming forward, a growing segment of the internet is rallying behind Justin Baldoni. Hashtags like #TeamJustin or #Justice4 Justin has been trending, while the phrase "cancel Blake Lively" pops up more and more. It's almost reminiscent of that recent cultural phenomenon where once a beloved female star, claiming victimhood, quickly falls out of favor when concrete evidence suggests the story may be more complicated or even fabricated. People are tired of false claims overshadowing real ones, and they're not afraid to say so. Many in the comments sections are pointing out that if Blake's allegations were real and truly severe, there'd likely be other voices echoing her experiences. But so far, no other actress has stepped up to back her claims against Justin, even though Lively's legal team implied there'd be more revelations. Social media is a double-edged sword. It can be an incredible tool to champion real injustices, but it can also become a tsunami of backlash if the public senses they've been manipulated. In this case, the tide seems to be turning overwhelmingly in Justin Baldoni's favor. If that continues to escalate, Blake may find herself in a PR nightmare from which she can't recover, especially as this heads to a final trial where even more evidence could be laid bare. Let's talk about money. Specifically, Ryan Reynolds' money. His net worth hovers around $350 million, and Blake Lively's is estimated at around $50 million. Justin Baldoni's countersuit, however, is a staggering $400 million, more than the sum total of the couple's combined fortunes. If the court rules in favor of Baldoni, that kind of payout could ruin them financially. But it doesn't stop there. If Ryan Reynolds is found to have played any role in defamation or intimidation, if he used his powerful connections to smear Justin or sabotage his career, then the couple's liability could skyrocket even more. Ryan has major business ventures like Aviation Gin, Mint Mobile, and a stake in the Welsh football club, Wrexham AFC. These aren't small side gigs. They're substantial investments tied to brand images that cannot afford a major scandal. Shareholders don't care about personal feuds. They care about stable, profitable returns. If Ryan's entangled in a $400 million lawsuit, investors might pull out, branding deals could evaporate, and entire ventures could collapse. Then there's his precious Deadpool 3, a major Marvel release. If the public relations disaster grows, Disney could panic about negative headlines overshadowing a family-friendly brand. A-listers like him don't usually get blacklisted, but we've seen enough high-profile downfalls to know it's not impossible if fans decide to boycott or if the scandal becomes too toxic for studios to handle. Ryan might have to choose between salvaging his own future and standing by Blake, a decision that could define both of their careers. Where are Blake Lively's A-list friends in all of this? If you look around, many of the celebrities who once sang her praises have gone conspicuously silent. Taylor Swift, once rumored to be extremely close to Blake, hasn't said a word of public support. Scarlett Johansson, nada. Even close acquaintances in the fashion fashion world or philanthropic communities are nowhere to be found. Hollywood has a knack for ghosting people the moment they become a liability. And in the eyes of many, a $400 million lawsuit with evidence stacking up against you is one massive liability. Some might worry about being subpoenaed or about tarnishing their own brand by association. Others might simply be waiting to see which way the wind blows before choosing a side. But one thing is crystal clear: the cavalry isn't arriving to rescue Blake. Adding salt to the wound, the author whose work triggered part of this feud, Colleen Hoover, reportedly scrubbed social media mentions of Blake. Initially, Hoover seemed like Team Blake, but as more receipts emerged, she might have realized siding with Lively could backfire. With her own reputation and book empire on the line, Hoover's pivot away from Blake is a glaring indication that even former allies see the writing on the wall. In a move that might signal the end for Blake, the judge merged both her original lawsuit and Justin's countersuit into one massive case. That's a game changer, because it means there's no tidy way for her to back out without also addressing his allegations. Typically, a celebrity might settle quietly to avoid a public mess, but the merging of these cases makes it much more complicated. The entire dispute now has to be resolved in a single trial, ensuring that every piece of evidence is laid out for both sides. If Lively's plan was to quietly drop her suit once public sympathy ran out, that's no longer feasible. She's locked in. She either goes to war with Justin in open court, or she settles on terms that likely won't be favorable to her. And keep in mind, Friedman is an attorney with a reputation for playing the long game. He's not interested in hush money. He's interested in clearing Justin's name and exposing whoever tried to smear him. The moral of the story: if you're going to come at someone like Justin Baldoni with a high-profile harassment claim, you'd better be sure your case is ironclad, because if it's not, you may find yourself countersued into oblivion, with no easy way to escape the courtroom carnage. Let's say this heads to trial, and the judge or jury rules that Blake Lively did in fact defame Justin Baldoni. In that scenario, we're talking about the meltdown of her career on a scale rarely seen before. Hollywood might love a scandal, but it despises proven liars, especially ones who cost them money. A defamation judgment in the hundreds of millions is not only financially crippling, but also the ultimate brand killer. Studios don't want to hire someone who becomes a distraction. Directors won't cast a star who might overshadow the film with negative headlines. PR teams don't want to deal with the baggage. We've seen actors bounce back from controversies, but a catastrophic defamation suit with multi-million-dollar damages is uncharted territory for someone who once sold themselves as a classy, wholesome figure. Companies and studios usually weigh cost versus benefit when casting or signing ambassadors. If the cost is an avalanche of negative press, potential boycotts, and reams of legal baggage, the benefit better be extraordinary. Blake's talent may not outweigh that kind of liability, especially when there are thousands of other actresses waiting in line for a breakout role. So, what's next for her if she loses? We're talking about the possibility of smaller, independent film roles, or maybe a shift toward behind-the-scenes work, if even that. It's a stunning downfall for someone who used to be considered a Hollywood darling, often appearing in best-dressed lists and championing various charitable causes. One of the big subplots in this entire fiasco is Blake's refusal or reluctance to be deposed by Friedman, Baldoni's attorney. According to court documents, she tried to file motions seeking a different attorney for her deposition, presumably someone gentler. The judge basically laughed that off, saying she doesn't get to pick who questions her. And that's a major point. Why is Blake so afraid of answering Friedman's questions under oath? If her story is ironclad, she should have no trouble stating her truth clearly and convincingly. Avoiding the deposition only fuels suspicion that she has something to hide, or that Friedman's line of questioning could reveal contradictions she'd rather not confront. Depositions can be brutal, especially when the opposing counsel suspects you're not being entirely honest. Friedman's skill set lies in zeroing in on inconsistencies, forcing the deponent to explain them, sometimes with catastrophic results for their credibility. This fear is not a good look for Blake. High-profile trials are as much about optics as they are about the law. The second the public senses you're dodging fair scrutiny, they start wondering about what secrets you're hiding. And in a defamation case, the truth is everything. If Friedman smells blood in the water, you can bet he's going to keep pushing until he forces a meltdown or gets a contradiction on record. Everyone's wondering, will Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds remain a united front, or will the intense pressure shatter their alliance? Hollywood couples have survived all sorts of drama: cheating scandals, tax evasion, public fiascos, but seldom something that directly threatens both their fortunes and careers. Ryan might reach a point where self-preservation takes over. If Blake appears doomed to lose this lawsuit, if Friedman's evidence is as damning as rumors suggest, Ryan could distance himself for the sake of his brand, especially if Friedman is alleging that he colluded to defame or sabotage Justin. It's a cynical perspective, but Hollywood is nothing if not brutally pragmatic. Ryan is famously beloved for his Deadpool persona, a wisecracking, lovable anti-hero. But off-screen, if he's entangled in a legal fiasco that paints him as manipulative or untrustworthy, that brand begins to crumble. The couple's fans might be in for a shock if they see tensions escalate. Already you can sense a strain as Ryan's comedic approach to the lawsuit flops publicly and Blake's credibility plummets. They might still show up on red carpets together, but behind closed doors, who knows how tense those conversations have become. The entire fiasco sends a strong message to Hollywood. If you're going to make serious allegations, particularly of a sensitive nature like harassment, you'd better have bulletproof evidence. Because if you don't, and the accused fights back with receipts, the consequences can be devastating. For years, we've seen a shift in power dynamics where victims are encouraged to speak up, which is absolutely critical for genuine cases. But the worst-case scenario is someone weaponizing those societal shifts for personal or financial gain. If that's what happened here, if Blake tried to exploit the media and public sentiment to strong-arm Justin, it could set back legitimate causes and reduce public trust in real victims. That's why so many people are outraged. They're not just fans of Justin Baldoni. They're individuals who care about justice and truth. Fake or exaggerated claims erode sympathy for those who genuinely suffer. It's a betrayal on multiple levels. Hollywood insiders might watch this case and think twice about how they navigate lawsuits and PR campaigns. One wrong move, one flimsily supported accusation, and you could end up in a legal battle that drains every penny you've earned while tarnishing your good name. We are witnessing the potential downfall of Blake Lively, a once shining star with a lovable public image, a glamorous marriage, and an array of major projects in the pipeline. Now she's locked in a legal war that could cost her everything. The real tragedy here isn't just the financial or reputational hit, it's the self-inflicted nature of it all. She initiated the lawsuit, presumably believing her star power would overwhelm Justin Baldoni into silence or a quick settlement. But the opposite happened. She triggered a counterattack so ferocious it threatened to dismantle her entire empire. As depositions loom and more evidence leaks, the question is less about whether she'll lose and more about how badly she'll lose. Will she be forced to pay every cent of that $400 million? Will Ryan shield himself by drawing clear lines between his interests and hers? Will their A-list friends ghost them entirely, leaving them isolated in the biggest crisis of their careers? It's sobering to think how quickly Hollywood can turn on someone. One minute, you're the golden girl, the next, you're persona non grata. And once you lose credibility in Tinseltown, it's nearly impossible to get it back, especially if your downfall is documented through months of high-profile litigation. What we're really witnessing is a cautionary tale about the dark side of celebrity power plays. Blake Lively tried to flex her Hollywood connections and narrative-shaping abilities, hoping to crush Justin Baldoni beneath an avalanche of allegations. She seemed so certain he'd fold that she never considered he might fight tooth and nail for his reputation. She never counted on Friedman, an attorney so relentless he's willing to expose every last piece of contradictory evidence to the public. Now, not only is her case unraveling, but she may have ignited a fuse under her entire career. The horror stories from the set that she once told are being challenged by actual footage that contradicts them. The network of powerful friends she presumed would defend her is ghosting her. The legal system, which she hoped would bend to her star power, seems far more interested in facts than in glitz. And the court of public opinion is quickly pivoting against her, championing Baldoni as a victim of a Hollywood takedown scheme. Here we are, at the precipice of what could be one of the most dramatic Hollywood legal battles in recent memory. The final showdown hasn't even happened yet, but Blake Lively has already racked up losses that would cripple most public figures. Legal losses, PR disasters, and possible irreparable damage to her and Ryan Reynolds' brand. The unstoppable train of evidence and testimonies is heading straight for her, and the conductor is Justin Baldoni, who seems more than ready to crash through the facade Blake's built. If the day comes when the final verdict is read and the court orders Lively to pay hundreds of millions, or if Friedman unveils a smoking gun that cements her story as a complete fabrication, there won't be a red carpet plush or bright enough to salvage her image. Hollywood has seen its fair share of falls from grace, but this one might set a new standard for self-inflicted damage. What began as a $250 million lawsuit meant to bully or corner Justin Baldoni could end up costing Blake Lively her entire future. And maybe that's the biggest lesson here. When you pick a fight you can't finish, be ready for the possibility that you lose not just the battle, but everything you hold dear in the process. Stay tuned, because the final act in this courtroom saga is going to be one for the history books, and the fallout might redefine how Tinseltown treats its once untouchable stars.